Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're continuing our series in the Tome of Heroes, talking about the races that have been added to our favorite tabletop game. Yes, we've got the Player's Handbook, Monsters of the Multiverse, all sorts of places that we can gather our characters' species from, what type of creature they are. But the Tome of Heroes, published by Kobold Press, adds some unofficial stuff to the game to make sure that people have always got something fresh to bring to the table. And today we're talking about the Satarre. The Satarre are, for lack of a better term, serpent or dragon people. They worship the ancient deity known as Nidhogg, a god who gnaws at the root of the world tree. And as such, they have a very, very dark theme that kind of leans into the far realms and the ancient and blasphemous magics of the great old gods. And while some rumor that they are related to the Dragonborn, they and the Dragonborn deny this. We'll get into the details of their mechanics in just a moment, but before we do, I'd like to let you know, Relax Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube and get a couple benefits. First, you get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know that you're a supporter. But also you get early access to my videos. I upload videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I upload them a day early for members only. If that interests you, you can click the join button just below the video down there. It's right next to the subscribe button. I'd love to see you in the comments with your member badges. And if it doesn't interest you, that's totally fine. Just watching the video, liking, subscribing, all that stuff that costs you nothing is a great way to support me. So thank you for being here and watching my content here on YouTube. So, the Satarre. In Tome of Heroes, we've got ourselves standard ability score increases, and the Satarre start with a +2 to their Constitution and a +1 to their Intelligence. Now, Constitution is one of the most versatile stats in the game. Basically, everyone wants to have it as a secondary stat and at least a tertiary one. So a +2 to that, well worth a 9 out of 10. But intelligence is the most niche of the skills, only really applying to intelligence-based casters like wizards and people who really want to focus on knowledge-based skills. Definitely the most common of dump stats, and a +1 to that, I'm only going to give a 5 out of 10. They are medium-sized creatures, which means they don't have any debuffs that the small-sized creatures have. They have a slight advantage over their smaller companions, and I say that is 10 out of 10, because it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. And they have a standard walking speed of 30 feet, no special speeds here, everything is as per normal, so that's 9 out of 10. And they have dark vision, which would make sense. They have dark vision out to 60 feet, the standard variety, and it is honestly a thing that when your race doesn't have it, you miss it if you're used to it. So 10 out of 10 for that. Then they have the ability A Friend to Death, and this very simply grants them resistance to necrotic damage. Necrotic damage is one of those weird ones. It's not super common in the early game, but as you get to kind of the mid-tiers of games, there's actually quite a lot of magical creatures, especially extraplanar ones, that will do necrotic damage almost as a standard thing. I say that it is a good thing to have any damage resistance, and I'm happy to see necrotic. I say 9 out of 10 for that. Then they have the ability Keeper of Secrets. This grants them proficiency in the Arcana skill, as well as one of the other intelligence or wisdom-based skills, History, Religion, or Insight. You choose one of those 3. So that's 2 skill proficiencies from your race, no problem there. On top of that, you also have advantage on Arcana checks that are specific to planar travel and extraplanar beings. This is incredibly niche, but it's one of those things that if you're playing into your racial background or you're in an extraplanar campaign, it'll come in handy quite a lot. And if nothing else, 2 skill proficiencies, Arcana and I would personally take Insight myself. But, you know, I'd say that these are well worth 9 out of 10. Maybe 10 out of 10 if you're in, like, a Spelljammer campaign or maybe a Sigil campaign, something like that. Then you have the Carrier of Rot feature, and this one really gets into that sort of like extra dimensional Great Old One vibe. Once per rest, so this ability recharges on a short rest, you can force a creature to make a constitution save. If they fail the con save, their skin begins to rot, their body rots. They will take 1d4 damage per turn as long as the rot is affecting them, and repeated saves actually don't save them. The d4 damage actually scales over time, adding another d4 at level 6, 11, and 16. Of course, a d4 isn't a whole lot of damage, and 2d4 at level 6 also isn't a whole lot of damage, but the only way to get rid of it is either to magically heal the other person, so if you hit an enemy with this, they have to have a healer with them, or make a successful medicine check against your spell save DC. This will stop the rot from affecting them, but it's interesting because a lot of these, like, abilities, you can just get rid of them with an action, or you can just repeat the save, and this one doesn't let you do that. If it had a slightly higher damage, like honestly, if it was a d6 and it went to 2d6, 3d6, 4d6, I'd honestly give it a higher marks. I'm going to give it 7 out of 10, because con saves are tricky to target throughout the game. d4 is not huge, it's something, and it's once per short rest. So I like the headspace here, but there's just a couple mechanical things that make me not love it. Finally, their languages, they do speak Common as a standard, and then they can choose between Abyssal, Infernal, or Void speech. Abyssal and Infernal are just the languages of demons and devils, so that's a cool thing. Void speech is something that you would hear coming out of, like, the dark places of the far realms, like the old gods speak that sort of thing. The book actually says that Void speech would genuinely make normal common speakers uncomfortable to hear it because its tones sound otherworldly. But obviously that would be necessary for you to take that if it mattered in a campaign that actually could use it. But in any case, having 2 languages and having some decisions on your second one, that's 9 out of 10 for me. I think that knowing multiple languages is a really, really cool thing, and roleplay, it can really, add some flavor to your character. All in all, that's actually it. The Satarre are not that complicated mechanically. A damage resistance, some skill checks, a once per short rest, an offensive ability, dark vision. Not super complicated. They make a lot of sense. They have a lot of decent abilities, a couple, niche ones, a couple really good ones. I honestly am going to give them a 9 out of 10. They're thematic as hell. They really, really sell what they're trying to sell. And they just work, and they're not overpowered. And I think that any person who's playing kind of a dark magic person, a Great Old One warlock would be great with this. An sort of abyssal sorcerer, sort of the aberrant mind would be good with this. A wizard, a necromancer, perhaps. Lots of stuff could work with this. Definitely, I'd go with a caster personally. That Constitution buff's going to be great, but yeah, even you could throw this on any character really. Talk to your DM. If the Satarre interest you, you can find them in the Tome of Heroes. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, as well as a link that I'll leave to the Tome of Heroes. It is written by Kobold Press. It is a third-party 5th edition expansion with all sorts of great stuff in it, and I highly recommend you check it out for yourself. Have a good one, my friends.